Why Americans fear losing freedom more than death? What if the greatest fear in America is not death, not poverty, and not even war, but the loss of freedom itself? Across centuries, Americans have repeatedly accepted danger, sacrifice, and uncertainty, not merely to survive, but to preserve the idea of liberty. This fear is not accidental or exaggerated. It is rooted deeply in the nation's origin, psychology, and collective memory. To understand America, one must first understand why freedom occupies a place in the American mind that even death does not fully displace. The United States was not formed through gradual evolution or shared ancestry. It was born out of rebellion against control. British rule, distant authority, and forced taxation created a collective experience in which power was associated with humiliation and powerlessness. Freedom, in contrast, was experienced as dignity and self-respect. From the very beginning, liberty was not seen as a political preference, but as a condition of human worth. This foundational experience created a psychological imprint that has endured long after the original oppressors disappeared. Over time, freedom became more than a value in America. It became an identity. In many societies, people define themselves through community, tradition, or shared history. In the United States, individuals often define themselves through autonomy and independence. Psychologically, when identity is threatened, fear intensifies. For many Americans, the idea of losing freedom feels like losing the self. Restrictions, surveillance, or external control therefore provoke reactions that appear disproportionate to outsiders, but are deeply emotional and instinctive within the American psyche. Human psychology also explains why the fear of losing freedom can outweigh the fear of death. Death is final, but it is brief. Loss of freedom is ongoing, daily, and suffocating. To live without control over one's choices, movement, or expression feels to many Americans like a slow erasure of meaning. This is why phrases such as "give me liberty" or "give me death" continue to resonate. Freedom represents ownership of one's fate. Without it, life itself feels reduced to mere existence. American history has repeatedly reinforced this fear. Wars, political movements, and national crises have often been framed not simply as struggles for survival, but as battles for freedom. Each generation inherits stories in which liberty is portrayed as fragile and constantly under threat. As a result, fear of control has become institutionalized. It shapes political debates, public distrust of authority, and resistance to centralized power. Even when threats are exaggerated or abstract, the emotional response remains real. There is also a deep paradox at the heart of this fear. In the name of protecting freedom, America has frequently expanded control through surveillance, emergency powers, and security laws. This has created a permanent tension between safety and liberty. Americans desire protection, yet fear the protector. They seek security, yet resist authority. This unresolved contradiction feeds anxiety rather than resolving it, keeping the fear of lost freedom alive. In the end, America fears death as all nations do, but it fears control more. Death ends life, but the loss of freedom drains life of meaning. Until the United States reconciles its need for security with its obsession with autonomy, the fear of losing freedom will continue to shape its laws, politics, and collective behavior. Freedom built America, but the fear of losing it continues to define the American mind.